Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, it's Adam here, and as you're looking at, this is footage of a Japanese sushi conveyor belt place. These places are ridiculous, but over there they're basically McDonald's. It's kind of funny. They're fantastic though. So yeah, I went to Japan I went to Tokyo back in October of 2017. I got a free flight and free hotel out there, so I basically made the best of it. I'm not the best tourist, even though right there what you're looking at is the biggest Buddha in all of Japan. It was just something I happened to randomly stumble across, much like this little river that had actual fish in it. And I was like, ooh, river with fish. I don't know why the hell that caught my attention, but it did. I wasn't expecting it to see in a city. Well, actually, this is more like a suburban area. But in the suburban area, what I did was I went out to a lot of these. As you can see, that back in the back there is a book off, and this is a completely different book off. Now, if you watched my videos when I went to Osaka, you know I absolutely killed it going to book offs down there. So I decided while I was here I was going to make the most of it, and I was going to find every book off, and there's one right back there, that I could in the, and there's another one, in the area I was staying in. I was staying down in Yokosuka, which believe it or not is where Shenmue takes place. I swear to you that's a coincidence though. So I just kind of checked out like all the book offs in the area, and I did my best to get to as many of them in the little amount of time I had. Check it out. That's a 7-Eleven. Look how big that is. It's like the size of a Walmart. And of course it's next to a book off. Super bizarre. So this is just random clips of a couple of book offs that I went to. But enough of that. Let's actually go inside of a book off, shall we? So inside, if you're not familiar with book off, it is primarily a bookstore, but they always have a video game section that consists of games and consoles, of course, them being Japanese, they're Japanese games. And when I went to Osaka, I destroyed it there, man. Like, I got so much stuff. It was sick because they had so many great items, and it was so cheap, especially relatively comparative to what you'd be paying if you were importing it and all that stuff, right? Now, book off in the Tokyo area is a little different because unlike the Osaka area, which does not have another sister store called Hard Off, the Tokyo area does have Hard Off, and Hard Off tends to get a lot of the better stuff, and so you'll see that. I'm going to be doing a separate video on Hard Off. That said, book off still awesome there, don't get the wrong idea. It's just they tend to have less inventory than the Osaka ones. But look at this. You just, like, this is a boxed Japanese Orange Spice GameCube. That's like $14. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's sick the amount of weird shit you'll see. This is giant stockpiles of original Wiis. Look at this. The price on this Wii. Not that I would pay this, but that's like basically $9. Maybe like $8.50. Yeah, they are so cheap over there. All this stuff. It's ridiculous. And this particular book off you're looking footage of right now, that's in downtown Tokyo, which is, you know, the ones out in the suburbs are even cheaper. Which is like, this one is the one in Yokosuka, which is funny as hell. The only Dreamcast game they had in stock, Shenmue. Look at that. The game that takes place right there, which is really admittedly hilarious to me. But like I said, I went to a ton of these, and I just kind of got some random clips so you guys could see what the general vibe is at a book off. This is not like one super giant insane store that I found. It's just kind of a random compilation of different things, and I thought that would just kind of help with the experience. But generally they have hardware section. They have a Switch in there, which over there is like gold. I mean, the Switch, that's no joke, man. Like, the Nintendo Switch is borderline impossible to find over there. In Europe they're common as shit. In the US they're getting there. You can usually find them now, but in Japan it is impossible unless you do it through like a resale service. But still, it's funny. So various Super Famicoms and, you know, special edition Nintendo 64s and regular Famicoms. Very white-looking Famicoms. Very, very good shape. Then they have their junk bins. I gotta tell you something about these book off and hard off junk bins. They're usually not actually junk. They're just not as in like pristine shape, so they're considered broken. Which you should really take advantage of because they usually work with just some basic maintenance. Like the N64 games in that junk bin, spoilers, I ended up getting a couple. Like, that's considered junk right there. That Super Famicom, which is like $10 or $11, was considered junk. But some of those N64 games, I would buy them, and all you do is clean them with, you know, the normal cleaning method. Oh, okay, it works. Like, it's not in like a plastic wrap and like guaranteed to work immediately, therefore it's considered junk. It's a very different definition, but still very interesting. So yeah, you can look and see all sorts of crazy stuff. You saw back there were Neo Geo AES and Neo Geo Front Loader CD in the box, which is insane. Actually, I have a small place in my heart for this particular book off because after I was done buying stuff here in this particular one, I was walking out and I randomly heard my name. I was heard, "Are you Adam Koralik?" And I was like, "What?" Because I've never been recognized in Japan. But yeah, there was this dude named Jose who was there. You have to understand if you're like, wait, there's a Jose in Yokosuka. Yokosuka is like very, very prevalently a U.S. Navy area. We have a bunch of bases over there. So as a result, there's a lot of Navy people who live there, but also a lot of the children of Navy people, what we would refer to as Navy brats or Army brats, live there. So basically, he's an American growing up in Japan. He happens to watch me. So we hung out for a bit, and we're talking, and then he actually did me a solid, and I was going to another store, which was like, like a mile away, and he ended up driving me there. We were going to hang out later, but the timing never really worked out, which was unfortunate. But hopefully if I go back, I'm in the Yokosuka area. Jose, what's up? We should hang out. And, dude, he's also a YouTuber. I'll put a link in the description to his channel. You guys should follow him. He's just up and coming, but you should give him a like, give him a follow, give him a subscribe. Why not? But yeah, book offs, not only they have old stuff, they usually have newer stuff too. There was a lot of Switch stuff in there, and of course the Wii U and the Wii DS, it's a used store, so like it's basically whatever anybody dumped in there at that point. So don't go in there thinking, oh, day one release, like they're gonna have this. That's not the right store to go to for that. But yeah, just kind of treat it like like a GameStop, but not like the worst thing in the world, because it's not. It's amazing. Book offs are seriously like where I killed it there. Unfortunately, because of I wasn't in Tokyo for like the longest amount of time. Like it wasn't like Osaka where I had complete freedom to do whatever I wanted for multiple weeks. In the case of Tokyo, I was only in this area for like 5 days, and then the trip was over. So and then I had certain responsibilities as the days were going on. So if any time I didn't have anything else to do, it was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go off and look at this. Look, Castle of Shikigami, Japanese Xbox exclusive, $1. That's a really good game too. Highly recommend it if you are into the OG Xbox. That's a good pickup. But yeah, contrary to popular belief, Japan does have Xbox sections. In fact, the Xbox 360 was super popular there. It didn't sell a ton of units, but the people who had it loved it because it had tons of basically like anime games. It was kind of in a way the spiritual successor to the Sega Saturn over there. Like I said, the mainstream never caught on to the 360, but those who had it just thought it was the greatest thing ever. It's a very weird phenomenon with the 360 over there. Yeah, there's all sorts of, like, you got PS4 games, PS3 games, which is always good to keep an eye on because, of course, both consoles are region free, which is fantastic. That's one of the problems with the 360 is that there's a bunch of Japanese exclusives, but most of them are not really import friendly in the sense that they're usually text based, and on top of that, whether or not they're region free is always a complete crapshoot, so it's hard to say. But anyway, that's a quick look at book offs in the greater Tokyo area, and now let's go on to pickups. As you can see, guys, of course I got pickups at book off. Not nearly as nuts as it was when I went to book off in Osaka, but I mean, unfair comparison. Book off in Osaka has kind of first of all, I went to like 13 of them there, literally. And they also have more of a dominance thing because they don't have hard off to compete with, even though they're part of the same family. But yeah, so I still got some stuff, and I got some stuff that you're not seeing at the moment. I'll show it to you in a bit. But first, let's just go with the smaller items. First up, we had this Monster Hunter Double Cross for the Nintendo Switch, of course, Japanese exclusive to the Switch. I would assume it's going to stay that way, but I don't know for sure. That's the risk, of course, of buying imports when you're actually in countries like this, because it may not stay that way. But at the same time, it's like it's not like I get to go to Japan often, you know what I mean? So like much cheaper to get it while you're actually there as opposed to importing it. And who knows, might go for a full Switch set one day. Right now that seems attainable because it's doing well, but the amount of games isn't that high, but that could change and be like impossible later, who knows. But either way, got it off the list. Of course, little cart and everything is region free, which is great. So there you go. The game itself is in Japanese, but I've been told multiple times it's not that hard once you read a little bit about how the game works to actually just play it even without understanding Japanese. So definitely cool to have that. Now, last time I was there, one thing I destroyed was N64 games. There's like 80, something like that, Japanese exclusive N64 games. I ended up getting like the majority of them, like 50 or so last time I was there. It's just, it called to me, man. And N64 stuff over there is stupid cheap. So I thought, well, what the hell? Let's look for some of the other ones that I've missed out on, and maybe I can find them. Didn't do nearly as well, which was impossible. You know, you got the vast majority already in one go. You can't get more than that, but hopefully you can get some. And I did. In this case, at least at Book Off, I got 3. Now, one of them doesn't really count, which is this. This is Beast Wars Transformers Transmetals. Now, I only got this because that's the inner child in me. When I was a kid, I absolutely loved Transformers. I still do, just not as much because Michael Bay destroyed that franchise's validity. But the Beast Wars show was one of the greatest TV shows like ever produced for children. It's amazing. It's really, really quality writing. And so even though this game sucks balls, it really is a bad game. I wanted to get the Japanese one just because why the hell not? It was just cool. It's just a couple bucks anyway, so cool thing to have. But it really is not, it's not exclusive or anything like that. It was just kind of a for me thing. Now, I did get a couple of exclusives at Book Off, one of which is this. This is Suzumi Tyson Puzzle Drama Token Marutama Cho. Some sort of puzzle game, obviously, with extremely very happy Japanese music. Like right at the beginning, you'll notice it immediately. But yeah, by Konami too. Back when Konami wasn't like the toilet that they are now, they used to make good stuff. So yeah, cool to get one. And this was like $2, so it's nice. I mean, like I said, Japanese N64 stuff in general, not very expensive. At least when you're there. Now, this is an example of a game that's expensive online. There would have been expensive by their sake, but by comparison, very cheap. This is Tetris 64. I got this for about $10. Look online, it's a lot more expensive than that. And it's got to be specifically the Japanese Tetris 64. It might surprise you to learn that this game never came out here. Tetris, we had multiple Tetris games on the N64, just not this particular one. Tetris was produced by multiple people. Even Disney did their own version of Tetris at one point for the N64. But this one only came out in Japan. I'm not really sure why, because I've played it. It's very English compatible. Like the menus are all in English, everything. And it's just Tetris, you know. So it's not. I don't know why this never came out here, but it didn't. That's probably also why it's got higher demand, because it's an import people can actually play. But yeah, Book Off had it for basically $10, so I was very happy to get that off the list. Very cool. So moving on, got some GameCube stuff. GameCube, very similar as far as the exclusives hunting. Basically with the GameCube, I want any Japanese GameCube game that they got that North America never got on the GameCube. What that means is if a game came out in North America on like the PlayStation 2, I don't care about that. I want the GameCube version. Makes sense? Even if the GameCube version only came out in Japan. At least that was kind of the sub-goal. So last time I got a whole bunch of GameCube games, which again are very cheap over there. And I was able to get more of them crossed off the list. So the first up is The Baseball 2003. And then, I can't really read this one, but Mutsu something. I'll put the name right there. Sega's, of course, most beloved franchise. Let's Become a Derby Owner, Dabutsuku 3. I'm sure we all know it. We grew up with it, of course. But yeah, you know, I don't know how I didn't still have my copy. You know, I mean, I had all the copies of this growing up, like we all did. But you know, I don't know what happened to it, man. So I'm really glad I get to relive my early years, my childhood years, my adolescence, my teen years, and of course college years. I mean, we all played it in college. I remember those big nights when we were ordering pizzas and we're like, yeah, put in fucking Dabutsuku 3. We gotta play that shit. I gotta become a fucking derby owner. Zoids Versus. Zoids Versus doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, the title alone is like Zoids Versus what? What are we talking about? And there's 3 of these. Zoids Versus 2 was actually released here as just Zoids. Zoids Versus is the first one in the series, which we never got, and then Zoids Versus 3 also came out in Japan. We didn't get that one either, so if you ever want to get those, the second one came out here as just Zoids. If anybody remembers that franchise. I feel like the lettering is meant to capitalize on Transformers, because it looks a lot like G1 Transformers text, and of course it's just like big robots and stuff, so maybe that was the point. Duel Masters. This is an example of a game, like I said at the beginning, that came out in North America, but only on PlayStation 2. In Japan, it also came out in GameCube, and I'd rather have the GameCube version just because I collect GameCube stuff in general. I don't really collect PlayStation 2 stuff nearly as much. So, yeah, got that. And then finally, Mr. Driller Drill Land. This one is actually surprisingly playable because it's mostly a puzzle game, and it's also one that's heavily linked into English. Like, not in all instances, of course, but you can navigate more. So that's probably why this is one of the, I'm not going to call it expensive because it's not, but it's one of the more expensive ones, being more in like the $8 to $10 range as opposed to like the $2 to $5 range. This one also apparently has some sort of GBA link compatibility, so cool. And then finally, as far as games is concerned, this one just caught me off guard. I didn't even know this existed. I just saw it and it was just staring me in the face. I was just looking up and boom, there it was. This is Cyber Troopers Virtual On Force for the Xbox 360. Now Cyber Troopers, of course, is an old Sega franchise from the Sega Saturn. And eventually it had a Dreamcast version, and there were future versions released on like the 360 and the PS3, and I think there's more, and there's a lot of arcade versions and all that stuff. I had no idea this game existed. I mean, I knew there was a 360 one, but I think it was digital only. And I don't think this is that same game, but I think this game, maybe it is the same game, I'm sorry. Anyway, the point is that game got a physical release in Japan. There was a Virtual On game that got a physical release in Japan, and this is it. We might have had this as well as another one, but all digital. But anyway, so yeah, this is physical and it's region free too, which is really cool. It's been out, I had no idea this existed, but it's very cool to get a Japanese Xbox 360 exclusive, especially one by Sega, and from a beloved franchise no less, so very, very cool. Now, that's it for games, but kind of an appropriate one to end on here for two reasons, which you'll see. The first is that it's an Xbox 360 game. It's Xbox related. What did I pick up? Oh, I got one of those special limited edition Xboxes. This one is the Skeleton Black Edition Xbox, OG Xbox. Now, it's in very, very good shape. If you're not aware, the OG Xbox, Microsoft made a huge attempt in Japan to try and appeal to the Japanese. And one of the things they did was they released a lot of different limited edition consoles over there that the West never saw. Especially in the US, we got totally screwed on limited editions. We just had the Halo edition and the regular one. Even Canada did better than we did. Canada got the blue one, they got the, you know, like the transparent crystal one. North America, the US specifically, just had the two. And Europe got some that we never got, and Japan got a bunch that nobody got. And this is one of them, this Skeleton Black one. It looks very, very neat. And it's, much to my surprise, alright, so this is where it's cool. This thing usually is a couple $100 if you can even find it. In this case, it was $70 what they were asking for it. And I just kind of assumed maybe it was just the console. But when I was getting it, they came over and they gave me this bag full of stuff. And this bag actually contains multiple goodies, which made the value even better. First of all, it had the official controller that goes with it, which, I don't know if you saw my book-off video from back in Osaka, but these Japanese Xbox controllers, originally they started off with this design instead of the Duke, and then eventually North America and Europe were like, that design is really a lot better, can we just have that? And that's what they brought over. So I just assumed the Japanese controller was just the controller S, with no other differences, but it is actually a little bit more improved. The buttons are textured, unlike ours. Which is nice, and yeah, it's just a cool controller in general, as I'm sure most of you are very familiar with it, but this one has subtle differences, and of course this one is also themed to be the same color as the console, so good to have that. Much to my surprise, it came with the official Xbox component cable set. This is the official Xbox High Definition AV pack. I had no idea it would come with that, as well as just a set of the actual component cables, as well as a power cable to go with it. On top of that, it came with the DVD playback kit, which is very, very nice. And last but not least, and this really was cool, it came with a keychain. And the keychain on one side just says Bill Gates. It has like his autograph in it, basically, in metal, which is not really his autograph. It's an impression, or a duplicate of it. Bill Gates, Microsoft. And on the other side, it says Xbox and has the logo. And it says Special Edition. Then it shows you which number of the console I've got. I've got 33,891 out of 50,000. So they produced 50,000 of these things. Now, how many of them still exist? Hard to say, but definitely cool to have that. Now, the other really good part about it is that I didn't end up actually paying $70 for it. When I found it, the thing was absolutely caked in dust. Like, it clearly had been sitting there a really long time. And I guess it's somewhat appropriate that an American ended up buying it, I guess. But yeah, it had clearly been sitting there for a really long time. So when I asked to get it, they got it out and everything, and then they brought it over to the register. And this dude brings out like this giant duster thing, and he starts like cleaning this off. And then the woman at the same time goes, in very broken English, she basically just said, "So dusty, very sorry, so dusty." And then she said a bunch of stuff in Japanese, and she could tell I couldn't understand, and she said, okay. And then she wrote down the price of it, which was basically like 6,999 yen, you know, or something, which is basically 70 bucks. And then she put a slash through it, and then she put 5999. She said, okay, and I said, sure. So it basically gave me $10 off because they were embarrassed by how dusty it was, which I was like, whatever. It's totally fine with me. I don't care. The thing works perfectly. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's in great shape. It was just dusty on top, on the surface. It was just surface dust. So yeah, all good there. And are we done? Oh wait, no we're not! We have something else to show you. On top of that, like I said, Cyber Troopers is very appropriate for multiple reasons. The other one being this. This is a Victor Saturn, or V Saturn as it's known. The V Saturn, I'm not going to lie, I don't know a whole lot about it, but what I do know is that a company called Victor ended up producing it. You actually look all over this thing, Sega's name is not on it. And I'm pretty sure the deal with this, although I don't know 100% for sure, is that basically Sega, you have to understand, even though in the West we think of the Sega Saturn as a big flop, in Japan it was wildly popular. It was also a very hard console for Sega to produce because of the amount of hardware that's in it. So what I'm thinking happened, and I'm not 100% on this, but what I'm thinking probably happened was that Sega just couldn't produce enough units to meet demand, so they let people like different companies like Victor go ahead and make their own units, and then just charge them some sort of licensing fee to just get more consoles produced. As a result, you have these like random limited edition versions of the Sega Saturn out there. This is clearly using the molding of the Model 2 Sega Saturn, which is very cool. Different color scheme and everything like that. And it works like a champ. There's nothing wrong with it. It actually has a different BIOS in it too. It's basically the same, but instead of starting up by saying Sega Saturn, it says V Saturn. It supports RGB. Like from a hardware perspective, it's all exactly the same thing. It's just produced by someone else entirely, which is very, very cool. It came with a controller and cables. Unfortunately, this is not as exciting because it came with the wrong controller. It came with a general like white game controller, and then it came with composite cables and AV cables. I actually need none of this because I got plenty of controllers. I don't use composite, and I have plenty of power cables as well. Yeah, definitely cool to have that. This was like, I believe this was also 60 bucks. So yeah, basically 120 for the pair, which, I mean, yes, that's money, but at the same time, considering how much they actually sell for, that's a pretty good fucking deal. So yeah, that was Book Off this time around in Tokyo. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned for my, if you haven't seen it already, you should go check out my Super Potato video as well. That was pretty cool. Got some cool stuff there. And I will be doing a Hard Off video, which is like, damn son, like there's some cool shit that I picked up at Hard Off. This is just a teaser for that. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all later.